Hey, welcome back to Rapid Flow. On this video, we're going to be talking about AI in music production, where it makes sense, where I think it has huge pitfalls, and generally how it affects your music production and what's the best way to get the most from it. All right, let's dive in. So even though I use a lot of LLMs and AI, I actually never use it in music production. However, I do want to preface this by saying that if you have found a way to use LLMs in your music production and it brings you joy, you get good results, it makes your process faster, I think that's great and I think that's absolutely the right thing to do. But for me personally, I just had a look at it and realized it's absolutely not what I wanted to do, and I'm going to explain to you today why. Besides this, we're also going to have a listen to some AI generated music that I tested a couple of years back, as well as the last track that I actually made, and I'm also going to be showing you where we use LLMs in Rapid Flow and where I think it really makes sense. So first off, why? The first reason why I felt compelled to make this video is because I think that there is an inherent danger in LLMs that they can create something that at a first glance sounds quite passable or even very good. I'm going to show you something in a sec. But music, in my opinion, is about feeling and sensations. And if the source of where that music is coming from is not in some way able to feel in the way that organic carbon-based life forms do, I think we're at risk of losing one of the most essential things about what makes music special and what allows it also to move us and to connect us. Now, is an LLM a good tool for creating background music, maybe in, I don't know, in a waiting room or in a bus or something? Sure, why not? It kind of, it does the job. But if you want to do something, I think, that really moves people, where you can really reach out and, put your feelings in the music and also channel inspiration is something greater than what is available by sort of regurgitating what's out there that's been rehashed through an approximation and a best guess, highest probability model. I think that AI is not a good way to go. So let me start this with a demo. I'm going to take you now over to SUNO.ai, which is the first thing that I tried to get an impression of what it's like to use an LLM. And I'm going to show you the very first track that it actually spat out at me, and then I'm going to show you the second. And I think the second may be the closest I've ever come to something that could potentially be a radio-ready type hit. And I never actually pursued it, and I'm going to explain to you why. Let's have a listen first. So this was the very first thing I ever heard from SUNO. 2 years ago, maybe, something like that. Seems to have been my prompt down here on some level. Let's have a listen.
City lights, they flicker on. In the night, a cold blue dawn. Echoes hum through empty streets, where the shadows chase our beats. Whispers dance in.
Okay, so I'll spare you the rest because I really think this one is pretty lame. But now check out this second attempt where I must have done something with the prompt. I don't exactly remember it, but let me show you the second thing it came out with.
City lights, they flicker on. In the night, a cold blue dawn. Echoes hum through empty streets, where the shadows chase our beats. Whispers dance in alleyways.
I mean, what can I say? It's good. I mean, it's a cool chord progression. It's minimal, it's deep. The harmonic and emotional arcs are good.
Silence calls.
The vocals are passable.
Feel the pulse beneath your skin. Let the darkness draw.
So honestly, this blew my mind a bit when I first heard this, and I did this 2 years ago. Why did I never pursue this? Why didn't I somehow produce this into a track? And I'm going to share how I would go about that if I did want to produce this into a track. But now, let me counterposition this with a track that I worked on with an amazing singer in my studio just last weekend. Camille is her name. And yeah, we were here in the studio. She's also, uses DAWs and synths and everything. She's awesome. She has an incredible voice. Now let me show you what we're working on and why this moves me so much. And I'm going to play the video here without sound because I'm running Ableton in the background, but I thought it would be a bit more fun for you to see us in the studio than watching a timeline. So here we go. So let me leave this there. This is unmixed still, but when I hear this track, it moves me. I really love it. And I remember absolutely the feeling of what it was like being in the studio that morning with Camille, with the sun coming in and us jamming on synths and then progressing to record her vocals. And for some reason, this gets me much, much deeper than if I were following the path of that AI generated sketch, which honestly, it's really not bad. Like there's some things there. So I vaguely remember that I think I did upload that to fader.ai or something where you can stem things out and then use them. And I kind of looked at the harmonies and melodies and thought it's kind of cool, but what I've come to realize is, if I go down that path, it doesn't sound like me. Like the chords that the AI, the LLM was using are not kind of chords that I would use. It doesn't feel like I put my heart into it. Even if I were to polish this up and kind of make it sound good, which is another point, and I'll get on that in more detail. As a sound engineer, I can immediately hear when something is AI generated, but we'll get into that and how you can also potentially fix that if that's what you want to do, which I think is absolutely valid. So there is a gray area, I think, where AI can make a lot of sense. And that is when you use it like a sparring partner, for example, to come up with lyrics if you don't know the next rhyme. Like, that whole lyric that we just heard on SUNO absolutely works, and there was some cool ideas in there of things that we could use. If you're stuck with your mix or with a mixing concept, or you need a plugin chain to do something, I just heard this from a friend, he uses it for that. Another place where I think in the studio LLMs can be great is to get through a writing block and maybe look for a quick sound or something that could potentially help you, or maybe dropping something into a tool that processes it in such a way that it gets rid of a technical glitch, like declips it or gets rid of hum or something. Absolutely useful things. But now we do use LLMs a ton in, for example, the work we do with Rapid Flow. So there's a lot of places, I think, where this makes a lot of sense. Having said that, because LLMs are trained on sort of the general human state of knowledge whenever they were created, I think achieving true innovation with LLMs is very limited. But where it makes a ton of sense is, for example, suggest me 10 YouTube titles for this video, which we do regularly. Or help me brainstorm this concept, like, here's a PDF with the concept for the next plugin that we're doing. Where are the gaps in the logic? Or how could we improve this even more? Or what would be an innovative way to go about this? Like that actually, kind of like a digital consultant, I think LLMs are amazing and super valuable. And also just to generate text, like to get, a reasonable landing page text or maybe a newsletter text. We don't do this anymore. We have done it in the past, but I just realized at a certain point, I felt like who I am and what Rapid Flow stands for and what the team does was getting lost. So we stopped, and what we do now is all handwritten and organic and real. Because I feel like, when you prompt an LLM to write your newsletter text, it immediately sounds like an overly zealous, very excited salesperson on LinkedIn, and it's not so nice. We have tried to use LLMs in a very creative and I think very beautiful way. However, there was a ton of pushback from the community, but I want to show it to you just to give you an impression of how we've tried to use LLMs in a way that I felt was ethical and beautiful and amazingly cool. And I'd be very curious on your take on this.
What if your plugin came from the real world? Analog warmth and sound quality incomparable to anything that's out there. We mean it. Zensphere, Friday, 6 p.m.
I really feel this like a beautiful piece of art that was created by the video director we were working with at this time. And it's like photorealistic. It's the actual instruments that we used visible in there. I think it's amazing. It's beautiful. But this video, for example, on our YouTube only has an 80% like rating. Our average is 97 even, which awesome. Thank you for that. The thing that gets me about this is that, we're building this analog, organic, instrument recorded from all these synths. And then of course it's kind of weird maybe to also present that using what some people on the comments called AI slop. But I think this was actually a very valiant effort to try to achieve something that indeed could be seen as artistically valuable, depending on your taste. However, it wasn't seen like that, and the pushback was so strong also on any kind of AI-generated still images and things that we use for adverts or whatever, that we just completely stopped thinking about it and looking at it in that way. Because of course we listen to our community, and because I also trust the people that are in our community to give us the feedback of sort of the pulse of the time. So before we go on, and I conclude this with my projections for what I think is going to happen with AI, especially related to music production, let me first give you an impression of how I would take that idea, for example, that was generated by SUNO, which has its merits, and use that to create a track. I would stem it out using a tool like Fader. I would grab the lead parts and the most important parts and potentially extract MIDI from them in Ableton and route them to real synths. Although that step isn't even a must, I would definitely pull out the vocal and record it again with a singer. And definitely I would replace all the drums, because to my ears as a sound engineer, the place where I immediately hear something is AI generated is in the drums. The kicks, the snares and the hi-hats always sound like MP3s, like they're hollow, they don't have the impact, they don't have the clarity, they don't have the cleanness in the top and bottom end. And that is because I'm going out on a limb here, but I bet 99% of the content used to train SUNO and other types of these LLMs was MP3s. I doubt that they went through the trouble of getting WAV files. So I think that, or maybe it's something inherent in the way these tools work, because it always feels like a smeared spectral kind of approximation of what a well-mixed and produced track in a high-res audio file would sound like. So in essence, I would take that as the bare bones of what the track could become and replace as many elements as possible from it, because the harmony and all that stuff was cool and the vocal line and the lyrics were pretty good and it would be a great foundation. So maybe as a writing partner to get ideas, absolutely usable, I think. And this would be my recommendation. If you want to go that way, that's how I would approach this. Now, to conclude this video, my projections on what will happen with AI in the music space, and I think generally in many creative spaces, I think it's going to completely disappear. I think it's going to be completely pushed back. The resistance and actually disgust of it with creative people is so high. A company like OpenAI shutting down their image video creation tool within 2 or 3 months, Sora I think it was called, goes to say a lot that nobody is interested in entertaining AI slop, even if it's based on Disney characters. Like, just nobody wants to know. And I think especially creative people are extremely allergic to AI, because there are many levels of offense there that, in some ways it makes us redundant, which I don't think it really does. But It's trained on the best of human output and gives you like a pale sort of grayscale approximation of that. And it all somehow sounds the same and is missing a soul. And I really believe that there's going to be a huge shift back towards more organic, more real, towards artists no longer maybe being cool with using, recordings and things that are coming out of VST plugins, but actually wanting to use organic instruments or real synthesizers, because we are so missing this connection, this interpersonal and life connection in our day-to-day lives with all these devices and screens and everything, that I think AI is showing us kind of a dystopian future related to art. It does have great uses in many cases. I'm not against AI per se, but I think for creative pursuits, there's going to be a going back to the source and organic and real type movement, which can be seen in the DAWless scene in music creation, which can be seen in the resistance and outright hatred that people have towards platforms that are heavy into leveraging AI, and what we're seeing happening on Spotify with fully AI generated catalogs and bands and stuff. It's the wrong direction, I think. And this is not where I would personally recommend to use AI as a writing partner, as a sort of digital management consultant, as a sparring partner, something to poke holes in your concepts or help you expand concepts or solve coding problems and stuff. Super cool, super valuable. But I think we shouldn't be bringing it into the studio. I'm very curious what you think of this and how you potentially use AI. Have you found a good way to use it? Are you against it? Do you think it's stupid? Do you think it makes no sense? Do you think it sounds crappy? Let us know in the comments. I felt compelled. This was a video that I felt really was important to make, because I personally can see from what I'm seeing with rapid flow users, a going back to the source type movement, where actually things that are organic, things that feel real, things that don't feel overproduced or overpolished or generated with approximation averaging systems, which LLMs in essence are received very much more positively than things that are done either very slick or by digital approximation systems. So I'm going to end this video by listening to this track with you. And something that I realized watching this that I wanted to share with you is that it doesn't necessarily mean that while you're using AI, you're going to be faster. We made this track in 2 days, in 2 sessions. One day sort of creating and sequencing, and the other day capturing the vocals. And the way we did this is we had all the loops in session view, and I arranged them live in real time. And while I was arranging it live, Camille was doing a raw idea vocal take over it, and big parts of that actually made it into the production. So she was channeling lyrics and melodies and all of this stuff on the spot, and we were totally connected and listening to the music. So I think if you manage to dive into something and connect with something and be working together with someone in the studio, ideally, you can actually do this kind of stuff faster than with any AI. Imagine the work of processing that AI generated track till it sounds good and feels semi-organic. That would take longer than actually creating something in an inspired state with another person. So I'm gonna leave it here, but just as a pointer that you can actually, if you have a good system, you can achieve what I think are really great results in a very organic, very fluid way. And I'm gonna play this track now and finish this video here. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're having a great start to the spring season in the Northern Hemisphere, and I'll see you on the next video. Take it easy. Bye-bye.